Good evening, wrestling fans, and welcome to the Wrestle Talk Podcast. For the next 2 hours, we will bring you the latest pro wrestling news, in-depth analysis of all your favorite promotions from across the globe, and much, much more. We will also bring you exclusive interviews with the greatest professional wrestling personalities on the local, national, and international levels. If you want to follow the Wrestle Talk Podcast, check us out online at www.wrestletalkpodcast.com. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. And now, it's time for the reigning, defending, undisputed leader in pro wrestling podcast, the Wrestle Talk Podcast.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this week's episode of the Wrestle Talk Podcast, episode 434, right here on WrestleTalkPodcast.com and all of our great social media outlets. Ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be a great show tonight. We're actually going to have OVW original Jebidiah Blackhawk here in the program tonight at about 8:15. It's going to be a great show. We're going to talk a lot of things professional wrestling. Matter of fact, we're going to be talking WWE draft. We're going to be talking a lot of other things. We're also going to have the FWWC. We're going to have the snippets of truth. We're going to have the shoot and shout. And who knows, we might even have the Justin Wade rant counter. Who knows what all we're going to have here tonight on the program. But again, make it a point to hashtag WTP, hashtag Let's Talk Wrestling, hashtag Wrestle Talk Podcast as well. We'll go ahead and make sure to get you here on the program. Make sure that you join in. We can make sure to get your comments and your questions posted right here on the bottom of the screen as the show goes on this evening. At this point, ladies and gentlemen, I want to go ahead and turn things over to my broadcast colleague, the man of the West Coast, a well-known professional wrestling personality here in the St. Louis area, who's now made his journey to the West Coast, and he's going to be joining us yet again this week here on the Wrestle Talk Podcast, that being Justin Wade. Justin, how are you doing this evening, my friend?
How are we doing, my friend? Just a nice 7.
We're doing wonderful tonight, Justin. We are absolutely wonderful
tonight.
Yep, we're doing wonderful. Again, you finally can represent the St. Louis area for once.
Yeah, I thought change it up a bit. We're both wearing hats. What are you wearing, the Avalanche hat?
Oh, no. You noticed Dynamo Pro. I'm wearing my designer Dynamo Pro wear in preparation for this Saturday Cinco de Mayo event. We'll be on the corner, I believe it's Cherokee and Iowa Street once again this year on Saturday with 4 separate events.
Oh, man, that's a sweet hat, man. I like that.
Oh, like I said, it's one of those I've had for a long time. I thought about the idea of all these great masks and things like that I have behind us, but you know something, Justin? Again, I got to represent wrestling. This is the Wrestle Talk Podcast and all, so you got to kind of recognize that. So I got to ask you right now. Again, we talked about it last week. How are things out west? Again, a lot of people talk about the Midwest and how we're actually, I think, finally getting into spring here in the greater Midwest. How are things out in Seattle this week?
Pretty good. Let's see. We got the sun's out, beautiful out. Usually from now until about October, we won't get much rain. People are always like it rains a lot in Seattle, but from now until about October, it doesn't rain very much at all. We got to worry about in September, late August, early September. They have wildfires out east in the. Right now, beautiful lot. Got baseball going on. Got hockey. The Kraken are in the second round, I believe. Last week I saw a ball game with a beautiful wife. Got to see the Cardinals beat up on the Mariners. I'm doing pretty well. I'm pretty happy. I'm ready to talk some wrestling. We got some big draft news. It's been a long time since they've done a draft where I've been interested in it. I was initially interested in it in 2002 when they first did it. Not so much afterwards, but I like this draft. We'll see what happens, and I got some viewpoints on that. So.
Oh, and like you were saying, Justin, there's going to be a lot of things we're going to talk about here in the draft. Again, it was over the course of 2 nights, 5 hours of professional wrestling action complete with the draft. And I'm going to tell you right now, a lot of big questions, a lot of big changes that are taking place here in the world of professional wrestling. And not only are we going to talk about that, we're going to talk about AEW. There's some AEW news that's been popping up. We're going to have some Impact Wrestling news. Again, Steve Macklin recently becoming the Impact Wrestling World Champion, winning that championship in a, I guess you'd be a sudden death matchup with Kushida because of Josh Alexander's injury, and we got a lot of great wrestling to talk about. But you know, Justin, before we get started here tonight, we do need to talk about our great sponsors, because without our great sponsors, the Wrestle Talk podcast does not exist each and every week. And as you can see them at the bottom of the screen, I want to thank Royal Mills Transportation with the CEO, Dewan Mills, Rathbun Engraving, home of those great Wrestle Talk podcast mugs. You can get one for $20. Send us a message, Wrestle Talk Podcast on Facebook. We'll get you all that information. Nobleman's Barber Lounge, Kansas City, Kincaid Arcade at the Oak Park Mall, Interstate 70 Sports Media with our good friend, the Maestro Jeremy Karp, Little Popeye Designs, home of those great Wrestle Talk podcast tumblers, and the FWWC, the world's premier fantasy wrestling group. And we will have information on FWWC Universe Mania Backlash later on in the program tonight. We're going to have information regarding that upcoming event. You can also get more information on that on Thursday as well, 7:30 p.m. throughout all of our great social media. And right now we're getting a shout out already, Justin. It's 7:07 and we got information coming out. Want to give a shout out to all of our team. Want to give a shout out to Alpha, to Nightmare Jones, to Hardcore Hoss, and to the Night Owl. And I've heard on good authority that we are going to be joined once again by the Night Owl. He's been traveling all across the country taking care of things, but I have heard on good authority that he will be joining us soon. I know he's going to be in attendance along with our good friend Sonny Money May are going to be attendance at the SICW Fan Fest on Saturday, May 13th. And to give you an idea, that's a little more than a week and a half away. And if you've not bought your ticket yet, you need to go online. Go to SICW's Facebook account. Go to SICW's website. I believe to get a FanFest ticket and to be a part of the event, it's like $43, but you get your FanFest. And I mean, again, it's pretty much a who's who of professional wrestling that's going to be there. I've heard Gerald Briscoe. I've heard JBL. I've heard Enzo Amore. I've heard Victoria. I've heard JJ Dillon. I've heard, I believe, the SICW Tag Team Champions may well be in appearance. Cowboy Bob Orton and Tony Atlas.
Stan Hansen, Haku.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of wrestlers. If you've not bought your ticket, if you're anywhere near the St. Louis area, you need to pick up a ticket for Saturday, May the 13th, the Aviator Hotel. It's going to be a great night of professional wrestling. It's going to be a great day of professional wrestling. And you know something, like I said, you get the opportunity. You'll see the Night Owl. You'll see Sonny Money. I believe the Maestro is going to be there. Chris Rodell may show up. I know our good friends over at the Falls Count Everywhere podcast, Rick Ruby, Mr. GQ, I know they're going to be in attendance. There's going to be, I mean, it's going to be a big happening in the St. Louis area. And it just seems like when the spring finally hits, it's one of those where wrestling really picks up. And again, not just here in the Midwest, but I mean, again, if you're looking at the East Coast, you're looking at the West Coast, you're looking, talking with our good friends over at the FML promotion in Canada. There's a lot of promotions all across North America, across the world, that are up to date in the world of professional wrestling. And again, this is a great time of year because not only are you getting indoor events, but you're getting outdoor events as well. And again, a great time's had by one and all. I do have an outdoor event story, but I'm going to wait until after we get done with our formal business here before we get too much farther along. It's a story that you're going to remember very well, Justin. I'm just going to leave it at that for a minute. But at this time, ladies and gentlemen, before we get tonight's event going, I do wish to go ahead, as we always do each and every week here, to pay homage to the United States of America and all of our great men and women and our first responders who protect this country each and every week so we can have things like the Wrestle Talk podcast. So at this time, I do ask that you please remove your hat, place your hands over your heart as we pay homage to the United States with our national anthem. All right, ladies and gentlemen,
That's an atrocity.
Hey, I just look at it from the point of view. I mean, again, she is showing her respects to the United States of America. And again, we want to say thank you to all of our first responders, as well as all the men and women who defend our country. And countless other things go on here as a part of the Wrestle Talk podcast each and every week. And I'm just going to warn you right now, if we can go ahead and throw that last comment up here. I don't think I've ever heard this before. And no, that's not the one we're looking for here. I've never heard that one before. That might be one of those to throw onto the list of things we've heard. Again, thank you, Susie, for sharing that with us here on the program this evening. In just a little bit.
Don't mean to interrupt you, Luke, but I'm just going to let you know right now. I don't know if it's technical difficulties on my end, but like my screen's moving just fine. But for like the sixth time already, for like now, you're paused on the screen.
Well, we'll try our best here and get things taken care of. But tell you what, I'm just going to leave it at this, and then we're going to go ahead and jump into our high spot segment, and I'll start with our story. It's going to be, and I remember many times.
I get nothing.
Well, I'm going to tell you tonight, we're going to have an opportunity to tell one of those stories from Dupo. So at this point in time, let's go ahead and hit our music for the high spot segment right here on the Wrestle Talk podcast.
Mic check. Yeah. All right. Wrestle Talk podcast. DJ Money. Yeah. Let's go. Welcome to High Spots, where we pop news like lamb chops. We dog shop, coming through the screens of the laptop and non-stop like a runner speakers of blacktop. We hit hard like chair shots and backdrops. On the clock flash, look like a barely fly. Now that's hard. We up to speed while they stay slow. Wrestle Talk podcast. Now they know we about to start the show.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, hopefully we've got our technology issues taken care of here, and we're going to talk high spots here in just a moment. But Justin, I felt it's time here to go ahead and share with you a story, and hopefully my screen.
Hopefully I can hear it.
Yeah, hopefully my screen and my feed will hold. As we were talking about earlier, you and I have competed many times in the city of Dupo, Illinois.
Oh yeah.
And I'm going to tell you right now, I want to share a story here. It was a cage match. And I believe it was a 3-on-3-on-3 cage match. And one of the more memorable things I ever remember in professional wrestling was the emergence of a fourth team, or a fourth individual, if you will. And this particular individual decided that he was going to go ahead and take care of things, and decided to bring a toolbox into the ring. Only problem is he forgot that the toolbox was open, and he pretty much dumped all the tools on his head. So, I mean, again, one of those kind of ideas where you just got to make sure you take care of things. Now, we're going to go ahead here, and we're going to start with the first question. And Chris, if you could go ahead and hit the randomizer here, we're going to go ahead and get things started with our first question. All right, we've got our first question here. Who were the best and the worst picks of both Raw and SmackDown in the WWE draft? Now, Justin, what we're going to do here, just because that's a
and after Raw on USA.
Looks like Luke is having a little bit of problems, so I'm gonna jump in here for a second and help you out here. It's technology. What can you say?
Yeah, I understand, but if it's going to be challenging if I have to do the game show challenge and this is happening.
Yeah.
So, but anyways, the draft. Best and worst. I really don't like it that they didn't. I think they should have let Roman be a free agent. I don't like it that they, Brock. Why is Brock? Brock's not even a champion right now. Why is he the free agent? Roman's the top dog. I would have liked to seen that, but I guess they want to put the world title on the Raw show. So,
and it probably has something to do with the executives of Fox and USA. They have a lot to do with who gets drafted. So they wanted Roman, and I mean, and with Cody not winning at WrestleMania, you kind of expected that. Oh, hey, Cody's probably going to go to 1,000 days. So, or Roman's going to go to 1,000 days.
Yeah.
And it's just, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I enjoyed. I thought the draft was interesting because it kind of shook things up. And is it just me, or are they kind of going for like some kind of a faction warfare? Because you got Judgment Day, you've got Bloodline, you've got the OC, you've got LWO. I mean, is that
it's gonna be a big? Maybe they're setting up for big war games down the road. Multi war games show. But I like it. It's getting everybody involved. I like seeing AJ Styles back. There he is.
We'll bring Luke. Hopefully, Luke has got his.
I want to see Luke Roberts back. That's what it is, and hopefully, we finally gotten the technology to go away.
Can we just address the elephant in the room here before we go any further? Justin, Luke's bald.
Yeah, and I'm growing my hair back. It's like something's happening here. Even though Rob looks like he looks like the shell of an egg right now. So.
Well, you know something, Justin? We got to look at it this way. I think it's time. You've shaved your head countless times. I've shaved my head I think it's time for Chris Rodell to join this particular prestigious club. What do you think?
He's got a good head of hair. So
he's rocking the Eric Bischoff dude.
That's okay.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I did used to dye my hair. Used to dye my hair black because I wasn't ready to get old. But then COVID happened, and I wasn't able to get my hair cut for a while because I don't own clippers, and I still have to go to a barber shop. And I just decided, you know what? I'm just going to embrace the gray. And people are like, "Hey, we like it." I mean, I've been going gray since I was 18. So.
That is true. That is true. Now, gentlemen, as we talk the draft, let's break this into two pieces. Actually, it's going to be two-part pieces. Let's look at Raw here for a minute. There is a very large list of wrestlers who went to Raw. My question, gentlemen, to you is this. Who do you think was the best draft pick that Raw would take? And, Justin, I'm going to go with you. I mean, there's a pretty long list of things. Who do you think would be the best pickup for Monday Night Raw?
Well, right now, let's see. You got Seth Rollins. I believe he's like this year's MVP. I'm kind of upset that they got him facing almost at the pay-per-view, but I believe Rollins is one of the is going to be the top for Raw, and I'm going to say Theory for SmackDown.
Who my favorite pickup is? It wasn't even done on TV. It was done on Raw Talk. I think Grayson Waller from NXT is going to be a big deal.
Ooh, I'm going to say if we're looking at Raw, I got to say that my personal favorite pick of the draft was Shinsuke Nakamura.
Yeah,
I think Nakamura is going to be a great asset to Raw, and again, he's already into having some issues with The Miz. I think that's going to be some definitely interesting television. Again, he's a former multiple champion in the WWE. Justin, to be honest with you, I think just kind of sitting here looking through the long list of things, I'm actually going to. I was thinking about the idea of talking about Austin Theory, but to me, I think if done correctly, I think the biggest pick for SmackDown, the biggest positive, would be Cameron Grimes. Another one that was drafted very late. I believe it was the last pick on the television draft. And I've always been a fan of Cameron Grimes. I really did like the $1 Million Man situation. I think that he can do a lot, and he's been off of television for a while. He's going to be one of those that realistically, I think we're going to see a lot of great things. And he's a very, like Chris was saying, he's a very young talent. He's not as young as an Austin Theory, but I think it's one of those where he really has a very positive upside. Now, this is kind of that armchair quarterback kind of thing. And we've talked about a lot of personalities. Here's my question. Who's the worst pick that each one took? And Chris, I'm going to go with you. Worst pick of the drafts.
Oh, I didn't understand they just did a whole lot of I guess maybe Indus Sher, the Jinder Mahal group. I've never been a big Jinder Mahal fan. I'm kind of looking at the list now. I'm like, everybody, I was more surprised. The one I was most surprised about was Indy Hartwell, the Indy Hartwell pick. Now on the SmackDown side, I don't know. I think SmackDown had the better draft. To be honest with you, the only one that you kind of scratch your head at is Rick Boogs. So,
well, I'm going to change gears here for a minute. When you're talking about Monday Night Raw, one that I am very surprised, and again, I just don't see anything right now, and I don't know how it's managed, is Dana Brooke. I mean, when is the last time we saw Dana Brooke on television?
I haven't. Last year.
Yeah, it's been like over a year, and I'll be honest, I kind of had to take a double take because I didn't realize she was still on the roster.
And I'm surprised. Karrion Kross. I think they've dropped the ball on that one.
Yes, they did. They have. Karrion Kross came in. I think when Hunter came back as a chief talent coordinator or whatever, the chief content creator. I think they brought Karrion Kross back too soon, and I think they brought him back too soon. And as to, he wasn't away from the WWE long enough that people actually missed him.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know one, and I got to say, and this is one I can't believe I'm actually going to throw out there. You want to know one I think that they're really dropping the ball on, and that is L.A. Knight.
Oh, all he's doing is talking.
Yeah, he had a lot of great things going in NXT. Then it just kind of fizzled. Then he got involved in the feud with Bray Wyatt, and as soon as they get one match to take care of things, Bray Wyatt's gone. It's one of those where on the talking scale, and I'm gonna agree with Chris. Based on how things have been as of late, I would rather see Grayson Waller than LA Knight, because I think Grayson Waller, and this is gonna be really out there, I think Grayson LA Knight should have been. He's very outspoken, very opinionated. I think it really was good. Now, I do want to bring up, we've got a few people here that we have here on the listen and are on the show. We've had Jared, we've had Susie Haas here. You know, one of the things that really makes me sit here, and I'm kind of going back and looking through the list. If you look at Raw, one that surprises me is how do Rousey and Baszler get that low in the draft?
I'm being booed. I don't even do anything.
That's one of the questions I want to throw out there. They were I think fourth round or fifth round on the second day.
Times have changed, my friend.
It's a name recognition thing for Ronda Rousey. I mean, you gotta call a spade a spade.
Yeah, if this was 3 years ago, they both would be way hotter. Baszler was choking out. He ran the gauntlet in the elimination chamber a few years back, choking out everyone, and now she's in the middle of the card in a tag team now. So
that is true, Justin. That is true. Now, one other thing I want to look at here, and we're gonna talk about this in two parts. The first one, a lot of people said it, even the broadcasters said it. What are your thoughts about this large influx of women's wrestlers to both rosters? I mean, you saw a lot of people who were getting drafted much earlier than a lot of people expected. And I mean, when you look at it, the NXT champion, women's champion, and the NXT tag team champions, I believe were both on their respective nights. I believe they were both before the third round was over.
No, they were the last. They were the last round picks they were the last picks of the last round when Sean and Road Dogg were on there. So I can understand that, but I was surprised by Indy because one, she was injured in that in that match on Monday, I believe, or she might have been injured at the pay-per-view. But maybe they're going to try to refocus themselves on women's wrestling. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I know Justin's going to have something because I know what they're going to do. They're going to swap the titles. Bianca's going to hand over the Raw Women's title to Rhea, and Rhea's going to hand over the SmackDown Women's Championship to Bianca. And I know he's probably not. I know Justin's probably not going to like that. That's probably going to be rant number one for the night.
No rants tonight. I'm not feeling it because of the glitches we're having. So, but no. In regards to the influx, I think they got to level it out. They got to keep it to where there's enough of everything. They're bringing it. Instead of being one or two matches on the card, they're going to probably try to make it even with 3 to 4 matches on the card. So.
Well, something, since Justin's not going to rant, I am.
Thanks.
I'm going to get out there and I'm kind of aggravated here in the idea of where, if you look at all these other championships that are out there, you look at it from a perspective of where they're coming into their brands and they're, almost immediately defending the titles. But for some reason, the women's championships, it's going to be like it was, I think, the last draft. And all they're going to do is they're going to meet together with Scrap Iron Adam Pearce, and they're going to hand the titles over. No, make the championships important. And right now, I think just handing the championships, thanks a lot there. The not so much rant meter. But when it comes down to it, that's one of the things you got to look at. I think that they need to do a little more with that. And thank you, Jared, by the way, for the idea of Luke ranting Roberts. We can get a T-shirt for that.
It's more like the wham meter, not the rant meter. The wham meter.
There you go.
I'm gonna go backstage and fire up the randomizer again. So
okay, we're gonna see now. That's what it was. It was Chris.
5 seconds that I didn't have nobody on screen.
Chris, we got to find out what's up with this, man.
It's got to be your, because I can hear you and I can hear Justin just fine. I can hear you just fine, but there's times you're like, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know, burping. I don't know.
Hey, I look at it this way. I don't have a spare Ethernet cable. So we'll just kind of go from there. So let's go ahead and try to hit the randomizer and see how this is all going to work out here with our next question. Chris, if you please. Ooh, good question here. According to media outlets, AEW All in London has sold over 35,000 advance tickets. Your thoughts, Justin? I'm going to throw this to you.
This Wembley Stadium, right?
Correct.
Yeah, yes. Wembley Stadium. How many? They hold like 500,000 fans, right?
It's like 90 something thousand.
They got a ways ways to go.
They've got ways to go. They're only opening at the start. Everything behind the stage is not going to be sold. So I think they said they have like up to 60,000 that they can sell right away.
This is where number one rant's coming in. I got a rant.
Okay.
I got a rant, motherfuckers. Not you guys aren't motherfuckers, but I got to cuss when I rant because it makes me sound more tough. Okay, a couple years ago, they motherfucking did the Rumble at the Edward Jones Dome, and they fucking halved it, to where they didn't fill it. I'm getting sick of these wrestling promotions. Stick to what you can do, okay? Chaffetz Arena, if that's all. Oh, unless they pull off something big name wise, if they're going to be able to sell out Wembley Stadium. And it's frustrating that they're going to be in Wembley Stadium and half the it's not going to look like SummerSlam 92. It's going to probably look like Royal Rumble 2012 at the Scott Trade Center that you and me went to, Luke. And it just frustrates the life out of me that these brands can't fill these arenas anymore. Now, I don't know how it was for WrestleMania. Were they able to pretty much fill those whole venues, those Saturday and Sunday for Mania?
I think it was somewhere around 80,000 for both nights. I mean, that's a good solid number when you're looking at the venue that they had.
I remember in '97 when I think they sold out the San Antonio Dome for the Rumble in '97. They can't even fill the equivalent with the Edward Jones Dome. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe wrestling's changed. I don't know. It just frustrates me that they put them in these big venues and they can't get the damn venues filled.
So does AEW need to pull out all the stops to like bring in like
yes.
a bit?
Yes.
So okay,
Punk needs to come back. Punk,
okay,
they're gonna have to bring Punk back.
Okay,
bring some people over from Japan possibly. Maybe get somebody. Will Ospreay, he'll have to be on the card.
I've heard this rumor. Don't shoot the messenger because it's terrible. How about Bill Goldberg and CM Punk?
Not together. Goldberg can't even do a jackhammer anymore. So I don't even want to. I don't want to see him in the ring. He says he's owed a retirement match. Well, let me tell you something. When you can do the jackhammer again, we'll give you that retirement match, Big Bill. Okay.
Does that qualify as a rant there, Chris?
So you don't want to see Bill Goldberg at all?
No, and because did you see the last couple jackhammers he performed on Bray? So okay, he fought Bobby Lashley, and he's fought Drew McIntyre, and he's fought Roman Reigns. Those are his last three feuds. Okay, not one jackhammer was performed. Now he set it up looking like he was going to do the jackhammer, but he can't do it anymore. Do you see all what he did to Bray Wyatt a couple years ago in Saudi Arabia? It wasn't a jackhammer, and he fucking dropped Taker on his head when he tried to put him in the jackhammer. Okay, Rob's got a goofy, frozen fucking smile on his face right now that I just wish I could punch through the camera. I'm just so upset right now. And Rob, you're not even moving. I heard you giggle, but your screen's frozen, and he's laughing still. And it just, but anyways, Goldberg, no. I'm not gonna lie to you. This is gonna make me sound like a mark, but maybe to fill that arena, make it Sting's retirement match. So because he's contemplating, he did that promo a couple weeks ago saying Showtime's almost over when he was talking to MJF in the middle of the ring. I know, he's I'm off the screen. Maybe MJF closes the door on the Stinger. Maybe
Sting. You can kind of tell the writing on the wall with Sting. That promo when he cut with Darby, it was it Darby Allin, I believe? It was
Darby in the corner. Sting came down talking to MJF. He got the crowd going because he was throwing out pom-poms, saying that MJF needs cheerleading. More pom-pom, not more cowbell, more pom-pom. So
everyone needs more cowbell.
Yeah.
That is true.
No, Luke, I don't know if you heard it, but I think they could fill it if they wrap it around Sting's retirement.
That's a good thought there. I mean,
but they got to do it in the States though. They can't do it overseas. I don't know. Maybe they do it like Muda. You know, they have him. They had him. You know, they prolonged the hell. I love how they did Muda's retirement. They prolonged it. They had the countdown of matches.
Didn't Muda have like 4 last matches or something?
They had a countdown, and I loved it. I loved how they did that.
You know, Justin, another one that I look at too.
What do you look at?
Thank you. Is the idea of where, and I'm surprised you didn't bring this one up. It wasn't necessarily a retirement, but it was something that drew more people to the venue. And thanks, Sonny Money, for the shout out as well. Look forward to seeing you here in just a few days. And thank you, Sonny. It's the idea of where, remember back in Ring of Honor when Samoa Joe was leaving and how they went ahead and they made a big to-do that it was his farewell tour.
Yeah, they did
that kind of thing is something that would draw the people in. I don't think that, to be honest with you, I don't think that it should be the final match for Sting. No, but I definitely think it needs to be on the tour. I think one more in the UK, one more potentially in Japan.
Because he just turned 64, I believe. Yeah, so he's not
still going strong, man. So, but like I said, let's go ahead here. We're going to be joined in just a few minutes by Big Daddy P for the Snippets of Truth.
Big Daddy P.
Too much farther along. Let's go ahead and we're going to hit the randomizer again. Hopefully the technology gremlins have finally gotten away from my computer. I said hopefully we've gotten them done. All right. Ooh. Did people make too much of CM Punk being backstage at Raw? Justin, I'm going to tell you right now, this is the question which I think goes back to what you were saying. He makes a brief appearance at Raw. He's been backstage at Impact.
Yeah.
I heard sometimes, I don't know if it's true or not, that he was backstage at an MLW event. I mean, he's been all over the place, and this could be one of those setting things up. Is he, quote, testing the market? Is he kind of checking things out? And Chris,
Time out. CM Punk has friends in this business. He has friends spread over every company probably in this country, and probably international wise. I don't think it's a big deal. That's all I'm going to say about it. You guys can talk about. You didn't hear you heard more of a bitch about it with the WWE stuff than you did about when he was backstage at Impact.
Well, you know, and Chris, I want to throw this out here. And this is going to be a really obscure reference. And I apologize for our viewers that don't necessarily know what I'm talking about.
You should be
Highlander Robbie. You're going to say, Luke, where in the world are you going with this? There was an episode, the idea of where he went with his family and was in the crowd, and Impact Wrestling took it upon themselves to put him on camera, and that basically ended his career. That's one of the things that people need to understand. There are people that, and again, I've been around wrestling a long time. Chris, you've known me for the better part of 25 years.
Don't remind me.
Yeah, exactly. Justin, you've known me for a large number of years. I can go to promotions pretty much in almost all over the Midwest and be able to interact and know people in every major promotion. And it's one of those where when it comes down to it, I know a lot of people have made this comment here, and thank you, Jared. It's unfortunate that wrestlers can't have friends. It's one of those where when we come down, and again, I'm going to say it, I am just as much a fan of professional wrestling as I am in ring. And I'll tell you right now, I enjoy professional wrestling just as much now as I did when I was 6 years old, sitting in my grandmother's living room watching Georgia Championship Wrestling. And that's one of the things when you sit there, and I mean, again, I'm not going to go out there and talk trash about anybody because each promotion brings something different. I agree with you completely, Chris, in the idea of where CM Punk very well may have friends all over the wrestling industry. But when it comes down to it, I mean, again, he's not in the ring competing. If he was in the ring competing or he came down and talked on a microphone, that's a different story. If not, simply put, leave him alone. And again, that might put me at the as Justin said, the Luke
No.
Roberts wham meter.
Wham!
But
Yes.
the fact is,
The
it's one of
wham.
those situations where leave CM Punk alone. If he's gonna come back, he's gonna come back. If he's not, he's not. Leave the man alone. Justin, any final thoughts?
Well, I didn't have a thought to begin with because I haven't been. This is my first time on this matter.
Sorry, Luke. I love you, man. And Justin's froze up now too.
Yeah.
What the fuck is going on with this shit?
Okay, Justin. I know one's coming. I know one's coming, man.
No, it's not. Because this is the rants I do on the show or for the show. The rants I would want to do about this would be very unprofessional about the glitches. So I don't want to do that.
All right. Well,
just technically, I want to get my point across though, without this glitch happening. So CM Punk, he's trying to stay relevant, and I think that's good. He's going to be coming back at some point. I think he knows he's pushed he's like a cat. His 9 lives are coming up though. He left WWE back in 2014. He hasn't left AEW, but he made that stink with AEW. I think when he did what he did in AEW, he thought his shit didn't stink, but he was only there for less than a year before he did all that. I think he knows his window of people accepting him, not just his friend. I'm not talking about his friends. I'm talking about the business itself. Maybe his window's closing on getting more chances to come back.
From what everyone says, I don't. Maybe he's not. I don't know. I've never met the man personally. I don't know him. I've never worked with him. Luke would be the only one that's probably even possibly worked with him, but I don't even know if he has worked with CM Punk. Have you worked with CM Punk?
I haven't worked with CM Punk, but you know something, Chris? I want to throw something here. And again, this is one of those where, and we've all been around pro wrestling long enough, we know the story. There are times when it is perfectly okay with somebody voicing their disconcern, voicing their opinion when they think something is garbage.
Shawn Michaels back in the day.
There's a difference. You can be, and I don't want to say politically correct, but there's a certain business acumen, a certain business professionalism that you can say how you feel, but you got to understand you're going to have to answer for it. Now, does it mean you go and you punch your boss in the head? No. You have to understand that they are still at the end of the day your boss. But you still have the right to say what you feel needs to be said. It's been done in the WWE. It's been done in WCW. It's been done in the NWA. It's been done in ECW. And those are the things that people remember. And it's one of those, when you sit down and look at it, I agree with you, Justin. I think the window is closing. But the fact is, and I go back to his old phrase, he was the voice of the voiceless.
Yeah.
He went out there and he was saying at the time what he thought was going on. And again, that's one of those, when you're the heavyweight champion, and again, this is going to be a real strange comparison, but you don't think to a certain degree with just changing of the language that Ric Flair couldn't have gotten the same message across? You don't think somebody like Dwayne Johnson or Triple H couldn't have got the same thing? Look at the whole thing with DX. When they were sitting there and they were doing all those promos in the late 90s. There's ways to do it. And it's one of those where when it comes down to it, let the man say what he needs to say. I mean, you're even seeing it to a certain degree now with MJF.
Yeah, MJF I think is more of a work storyline, but
yeah, I'm talking about him losing his mind after the pay-per-view, talking about how unprofessional everyone was. That wasn't for show.
That whole press conference after All Out. I don't know what was wrong. He was in a
bad mood after that show.
And I don't know why. It was a great match. At least I thought it was a great match. I mean, I don't know. Before we end, we're getting close to the end of High Spots. I know that, but there's been this question that I've kept on the High Spots thing for the last several weeks, and and it goes back to something that Rhea Ripley. It was after believe it or not, after a St. Louis visit. And what are your thoughts on this?
Ooh. I got to tell you right now, this is a very dicey topic because I know a lot of people on both sides of the coin. Professional wrestling is one of those types of professions, especially in sports, where you've got to be on 24/7. And I'll tell you right now, and I'm gonna share a story. I don't think I've ever shared this one with you, Chris, but I know I've shared this with Justin very early on in his career. Me, Luke Roberts, Media Relations Director with Dynamo Pro Wrestling, longtime referee, longtime in-ring personality, had the opportunity to know how this is. I wasn't in an airport. I actually got stopped grocery shopping with my wife in a local supercenter in my hometown to sign an autograph. And that's one of the things you sit there and look at it. I mean, there are people who are going to be waiting outside a building. Yeah, I get it. You're a fan of the wrestler. You're a fan of the promotion. But to me, I look at it from the perspective when you start going to hotels, you start going to airports, you start going to things like that, you're really kind of encroaching a line, that personal space, that personal bubble, if you will. And again, I'm totally fine signing autographs, taking pictures. I mean, heck, I even remember a picture of Chris Rodell taking a picture of a sign that you had at a Dynamo Pro show.
That's a show, okay?
Right, and that's the thing. I'm willing to go there. But to me, it's one of those where there's a line to cross. And I'm telling you right now, it unnerves me. I mean, again, is it something in the professional wrestling industry you could avoid? No. But it's one of those where people should have an understanding that there is a certain line. And if it's 3:00 in the morning and you got 2 hours sleep and you're trying to get on an airplane to go halfway across the country and they look like they're wearing their sunglasses or they haven't put on their makeup or any of that kind of stuff, leave them alone and let them be human beings. I think that puts me at 3, by the way.
I don't know. It just was interesting to me. It'd probably been more relevant right after the whole Rhea Ripley posted something about it.
But, you know, real quick here, just to give a shout out to Assad. Thank you for joining us here on the program tonight. Jared, I'm sorry that Chris doesn't sign your autographs. He's a very selective one.
$5.
And he's going to probably wind up establishing an account so he can go ahead and get that. Justin, I'm going to throw things to you because I can go on this whole autograph thing forever.
So I think the whole autograph thing has to go around not them asking for autographs. It's the amount. Like there's autograph seekers that are there for financial gain, and I think that's what they're having problems with. Supposedly Alexa like that for the same person. I could see that's where they're facing that more and more. Instead of just a child or a fan seeker wanting an autograph, they're having these lines of people with like 10 to 15 items wanting to be signed, and it's not for their personal collection; it's for their financial gain. And I could see that not being fair because those workers are not making money off of that. I remember a story in Jericho's first autobiography. He walked up to Dynamite Kid in a bar, in a hotel bar, because he found out where the boys were staying after a show back in '88. And he walks right up to him, and before he could even stop, kid looks at him and goes, "Fuck off, mate." I can see where there could be a problem. You don't want to be
nice about it.
Yeah, you know what? I've been on an elevator twice with Jack Buck. Radio is my favorite form of media. I always wanted to do radio. That's why I've been kind of doing this with you guys. I've been on an elevator twice with Jack Buck. We didn't say one word to each other because even as a young man, I wanted to act like a pro, while I was on the I didn't want to bother him. I probably could have asked for his autograph. He probably wouldn't have had a problem. But I know a handful of people that go to very creepy lengths to get autographs, and that's kind of like reeled me in when it comes to being around,
And the thing is, I know you were a part of a radio show here in St. Louis for a brief moment of time. Was it We Are Live, I believe, if I'm not. And I mean, me and Luke were part of a radio show for a long. We were the Brothers on Whatever show. And,
Shout out to Nate and Brandon Shaw, by the way.
Yeah, I did that a little bit, and then I did some other stuff, intern wise, and I got some photos and stuff, but it was always because they were offered. I never, went out of my way to, try to bother people, because in the radio, especially too, if you're working for a show, you're not really, don't bother the talent, because it makes the talent not want to come back. So
right, and that's the way. I mean, I would find it hard to not talk Jack Buck, or not, to like. It would be tough, because I mean, Jack Buck is royalty in St. Louis, and of course, I don't know if I'm sure Justin has heard, but
Mike Shannon. I've been going back on YouTube and listening to old baseball broadcasts with Mike Shannon. YouTube has so much of that stuff where you can just listen to old broadcasts. It's a shame, and I supposedly he had COVID since 2020, and that's what he passed away from, complications from COVID.
When he got COVID pretty bad, and you could tell in his last season he was really struggling to breathe.
Mm-hmm.
He was not his normal self. He was just, I mean,
when you look at it, Chris, you look at somebody like a Mike Shannon who is in professional sports for right at 50 years. There's not a lot of people who make it that long in sports. You talk about the Vin Scullys, you talk about the Harry Careys, and again, don't give me grief here, because I'm putting Mike Shannon in a very elite class.
He deserves to be there.
Right, and it's one of those, when it sits there and it looks at it, you're looking at things from a perspective of give the man his due, but also give him his space. Because it's one of those where if the man wants to go and talk baseball, sit and talk baseball with him. But don't sit there and just tap your foot for 3 hours wanting an interview.
I got one more thing. Oh, sorry about that. I got one more thing to say. I still consider myself a St. Louisan, because, it was almost 36 years that I lived in the Midwest. We have been spoiled with the voices of our childhood and teenage years and middle-aged years, from Jack Buck to Mike Shannon to Larry Matisic to Joe Gargajola. Is that, I can't ever pronounce his last name. Listening to those men growing up, it evolved our love and passion for multiple aspects of life.
And if you look at it in the hockey world, you had Dan Kelly, Ken Wilson.
Ken Wilson, oh baby, that was one of my.
Right.
Oh, my
and
God.
now you have John. Now you have John Kelly, and now you have Chip Carey, you have John Rooney. St. Louis is kind of spoiled when it comes to
And to kind of piggyback on what Justin said too, is the idea when people come here, it's like athletes. Whether you're an athlete, a broadcaster, whatever, when you come to St. Louis, you don't want to leave, because you know that this is a sports town. And this is one of those, I mean, again, we have been beyond spoiled with broadcasters. We've been beyond spoiled with a ton of great athletes that have come into the St. Louis metropolitan area. And again, the passing of Mike Shannon is definitely going to leave a very large hole, a very big hole. Now, real quick here, we're still waiting for Big Daddy P. I know that we've been having a lot of technical issues. Again, we apologize to all of our viewers. It's nothing that we have any control over this evening. But I want to go ahead while we're waiting for Big Daddy P. And this is okay. I think we're back now. Hopefully the technology gremlin will stay away. Here's the deal. Chris, don't worry about the randomizer. Throw the last question up here, because we've had a lot of great discussion here in the first hour. Throw the last question up here.
Are we talking about this one?
Yes.
Okay.
Reports say that XPW signed Tessa Blanchard to a multi-show deal. Will Tessa be able to return to a major promotion? Justin, you're already chiming in, and you're 7 seconds into the question. Your thoughts on this?
It's a little too late. It feels like she's been off the radar way too much. There is so much better talent out there that you can rely on. They don't have to put up with her bullshit. Supposedly she is a terror in the backstage area.
What is XPW?
She won the world title. You guys remember she was the Impact champion for a bit, wasn't she? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that was fabulous for the sport of wrestling. I really do. But because in a perfect world, China would have been that person in the WWE. And but Blanchard's attitude, I think, is what really soured her on me. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm reading too much of me. Maybe I'm being too much of a mark reading the dirt sheets and stuff. But I believe it's a little too late for Miss Blanchard.
What is XPW?
Well, just PW is Extreme Pro Wrestling. I believe it is a reincarnation of the promotion that was run by Rob Black, and I believe it's Extreme Associates back in the late 90s, early 2000s. They were the ones back then that had the supposed backstage fight that you heard about on Dark Side of the Ring when they attended. I think it was an ECW Heatwave event.
Oh, okay.
That was the group, and I'm gonna.
I didn't even know they were still around.
Well, it's one of those where I think, and again, I'm just stating factor. I do believe that Rob Black went to prison, and I think there were other individuals who were in management of the company who had to let it sit for whatever reason, and then they decided to try to bring it back. With Justin, the idea of where Tessa Blanchard is a great in-ring competitor, but you know something, and I'm gonna make a comparison here. And Justin, I want your thoughts here because I believe you've had the opportunity to take care of things here.
I'm not gonna lie, that's some funny shit right there we just saw.
Well, all I know is right now we're gonna have.
I've never seen Rodell run ever, and
well, we're gonna be back with this in a minute. But here's my idea.
What is it, brother?
And we're going to take care of it here. And Chris, when you come back, just make sure you're paying attention.
I hope he had. Okay, so I saw the back end of him, which I hope we don't ever see again.
Chris,
okay, God bless it, brother. You were on. Your camera was on when you scurried away, and it was the funniest thing. No.
Well, here's my thought.
In a better mood. What's your thought, Luke?
Well, here's my thought, and I'm just going to throw this at you right now, Justin. You talk about a Tessa Blanchard, who has a lot of athletic ability.
She had phenomenal ability. Attitude
but you know something? I want to make this comparison and take it for
and she had the look.
Yes.
That's true. Here's my question: do we see the potential for someone like a Tessa Blanchard in someone that I've had the opportunity to be in the ring with on countless occasions, and that being Jordynne Grace?
Oh my God! Okay, so I know a little bit about her, and not personally or anything, but by watching her on Impact, she is dedicated to this. How she's evolved since she's gotten into the sport. I don't know if you heard me, Rob, but I think she's evolved ridiculously. I believe she's got nothing. What do you call it? The star, the moon. There's no boundaries for her. She's still very young. I think she's 24, 25, 26. And I think Impact was the perfect place for her to be right now. And for her, I believe she's going to make some money in this business. Big time money.
I agree. And she's not very old because I want to say she's only in like her early 20s.
Mid-20s? Yeah.
If that. And I know the first time I met Jordynne, Luke will remember this. It was in Pittsfield, Illinois, where we went over that drawbridge. And there's nothing in Pittsfield, Illinois. Nothing. Literally. Almost.
Yeah. Well, there was a Pizza Hut.
There was a Pizza Hut in Pittsfield. But I met Jordynne there, and she looks nothing like she looks now.
And I got some stuff to say about that. Okay, so people have been I've been reading on the websites because of how she's looking now. And those people need to shut the fuck up and let her live her life, okay? She's happy with.
I don't think she's doing it unnaturally either. I think
they're saying she looks sick, and you never had to do anything to make yourself look better. It's not about what you motherfuckers think. It's about what she feels like. She wants to do it, And you know what? She's kicking some ass right now. You know, read that she did a bodybuilding competition and kicked ass in that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, God damn it! You know how much discipline it takes for that? You know, we're three fucking big motherfuckers, and we're talking about, you know, good on her. Whatever someone's trying to improve themselves, make themselves happy, who gives a fuck? You know, like, I don't care. As long as you're happy, that's all that matters.
I'm really beginning to think that people just don't want anyone to be happy anymore.
No, they're jealous. The people are, you know, and hopefully, you know, she catches our web show, and because of hearing how positive we think about her, she'll want to do an interview on the show. You know, who knows?
It's true.
Have we not interviewed her before?
I know Big Bill's not going to do an interview for us, at the way I've been talking about him. So you'll have to have me off the show that day.
Oh, you don't like Big Bill?
I used to, but now, you know, he's like, oh, this is my rant. Oh, they owe me no, this is my wham. They owe me a retirement match. Fucking throw a jackhammer first, and then get back. Okay.
Luke, you're muted or something because we can't hear you.
There we are. You guys, it's paused again.
Yeah,
Rob looks like he's an 8-bit video game right now.
Yeah,
and there's no sound coming from him.
Yeah, I'm gonna. Are you back, Luke?
You there?
No, we can't hear you. I'm gonna take you off for a sec. But these gremlins have got us tonight on all of our computers. Yeah. It seems like. But yeah, Jordan. I just, and I've talked to Jordan. I've met Jordan twice. Once.
How is she? She's nice. She's very nice. I assume.
Yeah, she's nice. She came in for a charity event that we had with Dynamo Pro. She wrestled.
I saw that match. I was there.
Santana Garrett. Garrett.
It was a good match.
Well, I mean, Santana Garrett's. They're both good wrestlers. So, and she's even changed since then. Luke is back. Luke is back now.
Yeah. Well, you know, Chris, you're talking about women wrestlers we've had the opportunity to be on events with. I remember back when you're talking about that Pittsfield event. If I'm not mistaken, it was Jordan Grace
Lucy
and
Mendez.
Lucy Mendez. I mean, right then and there, and I'm going to give a shout out to Lucy Mendez. Phenomenal in-ring competitor. I really missed the opportunity, even though she kind of had her moments where she wasn't too fond of the guys holding the microphone. She was always a class act in every stretch of the word.
She had one of the hardest slaps across the face that I've ever heard from somebody. I mean, you would not think that from a well, she's a Latina female, so you know she learned that from mama.
Yeah. Well, you got to look at it this way, too, though. I mean, again, I had an opportunity, and this is a match that's going to throw people. If you get a chance to go online, I had a match where it was for Beyond Wrestling. It was Jordan Grace and Heidi Lovelace. For those who don't know, she later became Ruby Riott.
Oh, okay.
Or now Ruby Soho, taking on Mason and Devin Cutter.
Lord,
the Hooligans. What the hell are they doing against the Hooligans?
And I will Hooligans now. Jordan Grace was throwing just as heavy a shots as the Hooligans were.
Well, she's been in there with Brian Cage, so
yeah. I mean, it's one of those. Yeah, she went out there, and another thing you got to look at too. And Justin, I don't think you made reference to it, is the fact that she's done a lot of training inside the ring with Jonathan Gresham.
Yeah, because I would assume so. They're husband and wife, so
yeah. I mean, that's just right then and there. I mean, again, I think when it comes down to it, I think that the Tessa Blanchard idea is gone, but I think somebody like a Jordan Grace definitely could be one of those where she could be. And I got to tell you right now, watching it online, Jordan Grace and Deonna Purrazzo. Deonna showed me a lot in that last matchup. And I'm going to tell you right now, either of those women, if they have the opportunity, you need to make sure you lock them into contracts, and you lock them into contracts with a good amount of money, because both of them have been able to deliver inside the ring. So now, gentlemen, I'm going to level with you here. It's been an hour. We've had a lot of great discussion. I want to say thank you to all of our great viewers who've been making comments here all night. We got shout outs about my hair. We got shout outs of Luke Roberts for President 2023. I don't know where that one came from, but that's okay. We've had boos for Chris Rodell. We've had Hulk Hogan is garbage. We've had a lot of great comments here in the first hour.
Justin has ranted that Big Bill can't throw a jackhammer anymore.
You know, and if he comes back and proves me wrong and throws that jackhammer on me, then good motherfucker, because it shows he can do a fucking jackhammer again and give him that fucking retirement match. Let's throw that jackhammer first.
Okay, can we just say something about this jackhammer about with the Undertaker?
He fucking dropped him on his head.
Well, but apparently he might have had a concussion at that point.
Okay, well, so he should have concussed his brain not to do the move then. So,
thank you. That's one of those things when you go out there as a professional wrestler, you got to understand that while you're in the ring, you got to understand the in-ring ability of your opponent. And I'll tell you right now, I've been very fortunate that outside of a couple of back injuries over 35 years, I thankfully have not had a lot of injuries. But I'll tell you this, I have had my brain rattled a few times. Justin, you've had your bell rung a time or two.
Oh, my God.
Inside the ring. And it's one of those where until you can get clear, you just, I mean, to quote Kurt Angle when he was wrestling Shane McMahon, you just go. And
that reminds me. Remember Kurt Angle, Rock, and Hunter at the triple threat match where he was taking a pedigree on the table and the table gave away before he could jump, and Kurt drove his head into the, and they were like, and I just heard the story recently is like, Hunter is like, all I need you to tell me is he coming back, and does he know where he is? And apparently they said he's coming back, but he has absolutely no idea where he is.
No, see, here's the difference between Goldberg and Mr. Angle. Mr. Angle is a goddamn robot athlete, okay? As he tells everyone, he won the Olympic gold with a broken freaking neck. He's pure. That was pure adrenaline when he came back out to wrestle to finish that match. He was throwing suplexes around.
Yeah, I think he was being drugged along by Hunter. He was being drugged along by Hunter and Rock.
Yeah, and The Rock. But here's the thing, too. When Goldberg dropped Taker in his head, when was the last time before that Goldberg had a wrestling match? You know, I know he was building it up, doing promos and shit, but did he? I think the last time he did a jackhammer was to Dolph Ziggler at SummerSlam when he opened the show, and then he had that match against Taker at Saudi Arabia, and damn near killed him. Now he might have had a concussion, but still, if you're rusty as fuck, don't do a move that you don't trust yourself doing. And maybe he did trust himself doing it. But it just boggles my mind that he's complaining that people owe him a retirement match. You can't even do your proper finish right. So I don't want to see you.
And here's how I see a retirement match: you go out on your back. You don't go out on top. You use it to put somebody else over. Bill's not going to do that.
No, because he's pissed because he's putting people over left and right before he left WWE. Drew McIntyre, Bobby Lashley, Roman Reigns. They all put him on his back, and he's all pissy about that because he thinks he should have always been undefeated. So, I love what he did for the sport. And by God, hopefully he never hears this podcast because he's probably going to not have – he's going to treat me like he treated Jericho when Jericho was doing all that shtick back in the day. So, but yeah, it just, get your shit together.
All right.
Like I said, while we're talking about this here, I want to go ahead and take just a minute. I was just informed by the CEO that he has some information he wants to share with us. And Chris, if you'd be so kind, can you hit the breaking news sounder? I hope you can, because I think we're going to see if we can actually give this a little more ceremony here. All right, ladies and gentlemen, from the desk of the FWWC's own CEO, we're going to be talking Universe Mania 9, which will be taking place this weekend. For more information about the FWWC, you can check them out, WrestleTalkPodcast.com. You can also check them out on social media this Thursday night. Our first matchup here is POM taking on Lecter and Sick. This is a champions all-around match, and the idea is if Sick if Sick and Lecter cannot beat Palm, their future championship match will be Champions Advantage. For more information on that, log on to the FWWC tonight, Thursday at 7:30 p.m. Let's go ahead and move on to our next matchup here. It is a Money in the Bank qualifying match. Top 4 scores move on to the Money in the Bank ladder match as a part of the FWWC. We have Sista Haas, Oni, Mobile, the Alpha, El Luchador de Kansas City, and Big Papa Malice. You got 6 people all vying for 4 spots here as a part of this Money in the Bank qualifying match this weekend as a part of the Universe Mania Backlash 2023. We got one more slide, I believe, coming up here, or at least I'm hoping so. And here we go. Funky Flex taking on Ace. And if Ace cannot beat Funky, their future title match will be Champions Advantage. So again, if you want to know more about the FWWC, the world's premier fantasy wrestling group, make it a point to check them out online. You can also check them out this Thursday, 7:30 p.m. Central. You can get all your great information about the FWWC live on the WrestleTalkPodcast.com website as well. Also, before we get to our feature guest, we're going to be joined here momentarily by Jebidiah Blackhawk, an interview that I'm very much looking forward to. But before we get too much farther along, let's go ahead and thank our great sponsors. Again, we've been having a lot of technology issue here tonight, but they're keeping us going strong here on the Wrestle Talk podcast. I want to thank Royal Mills Transportation. I want to thank Raft Bun Engraving. Again, those great Wrestle Talk podcast mugs, you need to get one quick before they're all gone. Nobleman's Barber Lounge, Kansas City. Kincaid Arcade at the Oak Park Mall. Still need to make my way to Kansas City just to go out there and experience Kincaid Arcade. Interstate 70 Sports Media, our good friend Maestro Jeremy Karp, Little Popeye Designs, the people behind those great Wrestle Talk podcast tumblers, and again, as we said before, the FWWC, the world's premier fantasy wrestling group. Now, Justin, I'm going to tell you right now, I have been looking forward to this interview, and actually I'm sitting here just to make sure with some things going on here. This interview has been a couple weeks in the making. And you and I both know, and I know our viewers here have known a lot about it as well, the idea of our love of professional wrestling. And we had an opportunity about a year, 18 months ago, might be a little longer now. We had an opportunity to be joined by the man behind OVW, Al Snow. He's also behind Collar and Elbow as well, the clothing brand. And we had an opportunity to get to learn a little bit more with him and with the voice of OVW, Brian Kennison, regarding OVW. And when I found out we were going to have the opportunity in just a few moments to interview Jebidiah Blackhawk, this is going to be an interview. For those that are fans of OVW, this is going to be a great interview. And Chris, I know you just popped back in.
No, I just was going to say a shout out to, and I believe, and Jebidiah is still working in OVW because I believe he's been posting things about OVW, and we actually know somebody that has been traveling down to OVW recently. One of our referees here in the St. Louis area, Mr. HD Daniels. So a shout out to him. He has been doing the TV tapings. He did his first pay-per-view for Fight TV, the cage match pay-per-view. I don't know. I don't know the whole story behind it. How he got the tryout. He went down for a tryout, and they liked his work, and they brought him in, and he's one of their referees. So,
and you know something, Chris, that's one of those things of where learning how to be involved in professional wrestling, learning, and Chris, you've heard this, Justin, you've heard this. The idea, a lot of times in the world of pro wrestling, the best way to learn is to watch what's going on in the ring and sit down and be quiet. And that's one of those a lot of times. And again, I want to give a shout out to HD Daniels for having that opportunity.
I know that's kind of a point of personal pride because you helped train him. So, I mean, we all kind of have handed, but you really took him, you mentored him a little bit. So
Yeah, that is true. And like I said, I want to give a shout out to him. I want to give a shout out to our good friend Christopher Miles. I want to give a shout out to all. I mean, I could spend an hour talking about referees that I've been able to travel up and down the road with. And maybe that's one of those we need to have soon, is just have like a referee hodgepodge or a potpourri of professional wrestling referees, just as long as we don't have to hear any more stories about Joe Lance and WDWA. As long as we don't have to hear any more story. I mean, the last time we heard, I think he got tased. And again, that's one of those, I don't acknowledge any referee to be abused that much. But Chris, I do believe our feature interview guest is on the line. So we're going to go ahead here right now. And hopefully we've gotten the gremlins taken care of. It's been a very chaotic first hour here on the Wrestle Talk podcast. But I want to go ahead and welcome to the Wrestle Talk podcast for the very first time a man known as an OVW original. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Wrestle Talk podcast, the one, the only, Jebidiah Blackhawk. Let's go ahead and hit the music and bring him on in.
Looks like we're going to have him come on in with no music. There he is.
Hey, you see me?
Yeah, we can hear you right now, Jebidiah. I mean, again,
fellas,
yeah, we got you right now. Things seem to be going okay. We apologize for the technology gremlins. I know you were on a little bit earlier, and we've hopefully got them all worked out. It's been hitting everybody all night long. But you know something? And I want to go back to something when we first talked a long time ago. You being a longtime Kentuckian, a long time resident of Appalachia, one of the things they always talk about is the idea of you being able to come here to Wrestle Talk podcast, and I'm going to use a phrase that you use very much, we'll be able to sit down and sit a spell and talk about the world of professional wrestling. And I got to ask you, I mean, it's like 8 o'clock at night, and I got to ask you, how do you manage to keep in your overalls at 8 o'clock at night? It's just a little too cold here where I'm at here in the St. Louis area. Is there some kind of mind over matter thing to make sure that you're ready to rock and roll? Because I don't think I could do it.
Fella, I like it in my overalls. It's good and comfortable, and I'm in the barn right now. It's nice and warm. I'm not going to be on with you fellers. I'd be cuddled up there and Miss Blackhawk if I wasn't careful. So it's a good thing I'm wearing overalls. Y'all lucky.
Thank the Lord.
Well, like I said, Jebidiah, first of all, on behalf of the Wrestle Talk podcast family, I want to welcome you to come in on the program. Now, as we talked about before, one of the things that really stood out to you when we were doing our research is the idea that you were a part of the very first OVW television program. Now, for those that don't follow OVW, Ohio Valley Wrestling has been around seemingly forever. I mean, I think we can go back to, and if my memory serves me correctly, 99, if I'm not mistaken. Might be even a little bit more than that.
Well, fella, I'll tell you.
Well, go ahead.
No, fella, you're in the neighborhood there. 1999, that was about the time they started bringing developmentals in and everybody started noticing. But Ohio Valley Wrestling been around this part 1996, 97. And then before that, it were Nightmare Incorporated, got moved over to OVW after a while, and it's 25 years worth. You heard me?
I think we lost Mr. There he is. Luke? You there, Luke?
I think Luke is frozen up again, but that's okay. We'll go ahead and continue. When's the last time you were down at OVW?
It's just you and me, feller.
Can you hear me?
There's that one. I hear you.
Okay. When was the last time you were in OVW?
I was over last Friday night. We ran down there at the waterfront kicked off that Derby Festival down there in Louisville. And we was down there at the waterfront, the Chow Wagon, put up in front of about 3,000 people down there, middle of Derby season up here in Kentucky. So a Kentucky Derby Festival down there at the Chow Wagon. We was down there on Friday, and then Thursdays for that, last Thursday at TV taping over every Thursday.
Yeah,
that's over on the old Shepherdsville Road there.
At the Danny Davis Arena. It's still called the Danny Davis Arena, right?
Davis Arena over on old Shepherdsville Road in Louisville. Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's a good time. I've never been to an OVW taping, but I've got a friend that's reffing down there now. Bring Luke back in here. Hopefully, Luke.
I'm hoping the technology's working here. I feel like I'm definitely out of sorts here tonight.
Who's your friend?
HD Daniels. I don't know if you've had the. He's a referee. He's a referee for you guys.
Yeah, he's only been with OVW a few months now.
Yeah, feller, that feller jumps through the ceiling, wears them flashing sunglasses.
Oh well. Hopefully we can keep this technology stuff going. You were talking about one nightmare Danny Davis, and I got to ask you, Jebidiah, what was it like to learn and advance yourself in professional wrestling under the guidance of Danny Davis?
Feller, I'll tell you what. When I first started OVW, I was about. I wasn't even 18 years old yet, breaking the wrestling business there, and found Danny Davis over on Dixie Highway, and had an uncle took me to Danny Davis, and had Sean Venom, Frank Miller, Ash Flanagan, Victor Bruiser. I mean, they're all staples in the area there for a long time. I think Victor wanted to be a Kentucky Hall of Famer, probably an Indiana Hall of Famer. A lot of other fellers, Phantoms, Jason Lee, saw them all. Went over and talked to Danny. That's back when his office was over on Watt Street in Jeffersonville. That was the first Davis Arena, and went over there, had my meeting with him, and next thing I knew, I was joining the circus, man. Work with Danny Davis, run you to death. Make sure you're in shape to do it. And then, it seemed like he'd do everything in his power to get you to quit. And because if you gave up on your dream. I felt like myself, he's little out there wrestling in the backyard, and everybody else just grew up. But for some reason, I was going to do it. And work with Danny Davis, him hands-on out there, sitting outside the ring, critiquing you on the things that make you real professional. Just little things like doing things the right way and not just doing it like you figured it out watching some video somewhere, and the old way of working, opportunity while at OVW with Danny was opportunity to work with the plethora of guys who Rip Rogers, go working wrestling with him in a wrestling ring. And that was the kind of thing that you get in there with, man, you look up, there'd be Dutch Mantel. If this big fella in Memphis goes up there to New York, and I think they met with Dirty, and I think Full there one or two times. I mean, Danny just had all these connectors, just legendary in the wrestling, but become OVW even before OVW was a developmental. And then once developmental took over, it just grew wings and flew, and it ain't looked back. 25 years later, now it's under the guise of Al Snow. He's got Doug Basham as his head trainer over there. And I mean, I remember wrestling with Doug Basham at OVW when I was a kid. You know, my second wrestling match was against Doug Basham. So, I mean, I feel at home at OVW now as I did, you know, forever ago. I think I lost y'all again.
Well, Jeb, hopefully I can get, hopefully my connection will stay here. One question, you talk about a lot of the OVW originals, and one name that I didn't really hear, but I know a lot of people talk about in OVW is Nick Dinsmore. Can you tell us a little bit about, with your long experience in OVW, about being in the same locker room and being in the same ring with someone like Nick Dinsmore?
Well, let me tell you about being in the locker room in the same ring with Nick Dinsmore. That fella and me, we're about the same age, and don't you know, he wasn't but a couple months ahead of me in that class. Well, matter of fact, my very first wrestling match was against Nick Dinsmore, and both of us just out there green as gills, you know. And you talk about, you know, being able to share a locker room, man. I got to ride in the car with the fella. And the thing is, when you're 20 years old and you're trying to break in, you don't know who you're riding in the car with, because I had no idea that Nick Dinsmore was going to, you know, go down the road and do what he did with the character that, you know, most people were just, you know, crapping their hat over. And Nick Dinsmore made that Eugene thing, you know, fly. So I got to give him all the props in the world for being able to do that, you know, with the kind of thing they saddled him with, because Nick Dinsmore is probably one of the, if not the best, with besides Doug Basham, students to ever walk out of OVW. And that's the developmental guys will admit it too. You get them on your podcast, they'll tell you who's the best out there. And Dinsmore was the best out there at the time. He was, to me, I think Nick Dinsmore was probably probably the next Dean Malenko. And I don't think Dean Malenko gets enough credit as a wrestler. Nick Dinsmore was that guy. But to be able to have my very first wrestling match with Nick Dinsmore, now there's something I can take, you know, and I can be proud of that.
Well, I got one more question here, and I'm going to throw a name that a lot of people may or may not take. It's a name that both my broadcast colleague Justin and I are very familiar with, and he's made a couple trips up here to the St. Louis area. That being legendary professional wrestling manager and personality Jim Cornette. Did you have any dealings with Cornette in OVW?
Yeah, man. I got, you know, when Jimmy came in to help Danny, you know, I didn't really, I just had a hard time getting to know him. You know, he kind of stood off. He kind of was, I don't really get along with, you know, he's kind of got a temper about him, and I really tried to avoid him a lot. But whenever he did approach me and we did talk, it was always, you know, very, very professional. I mean, yeah, he got a way of getting his point across that most people today probably cringe at and probably drag. But the thing is the way that he was raised in the wrestling business, no different than the same way Danny Tripp. That's why I kind of was able to take, you know, some of the stuff that he said and some of his actions, because that's just how the fellers were. And that's what the business is a million miles away from now, I think. But no, man, old Jimmy Cornette, man, I can't think anything too awful terrible to say about Jimmy Cornette, man. He gave me advice when I needed advice. There's a couple things we didn't see eye to eye on along the way. Every once in a while, I'll give his podcast a listen, and he'll mention a story or something, this, that, and the other about old Blackhawk. But, you know, I mean, to think a feller that's seen just about everybody in the wrestling industry that anybody's ever seen that can remember, or he's either worked beside them in a ring, been back telling them what they're supposed to be into, or if he's out there taking pictures of them when he was a kid. That dude's been about a wrestling business his whole life. And when a fellow like that says, hey, man, here's what's going on with you, and this is what we need to see and do, then you got to listen when a fella says that to you, whether you agree with it or not. Thing is when I was dealing with Jim Cornette, I was a kid myself. I was 20-some years old and really, really full of myself. And didn't take everything he said with, you know, the way I probably should have. But looking back now, I'm grateful for the opportunity to be able to spend some time with a fellow like Jim Cornette, because, you standing next to a lead, he's being the Hall of Famer at the WWE. If there was still a WCW standing, he'd have been the Hall of Famer there. Hell, man, he'd probably been in charge of the company.
And Jeb, I'm going to tell you right now, this is why I have so looked forward to this interview, because you and I think very much alike in the idea. We both have that old school mentality of the idea of where we go out there, we know what it takes, but we were talking about it just a few minutes before you came on the air, the idea of there's a lot of times when you got to sit and you got to listen. And I agree with you completely in the idea of where when you're inside the squared circle and you're traveling, there's times where you get full of yourself. I've done it. My colleague Justin Wade, he's done it. But it's one of those where you learn from those that came before you. It's like passing the knowledge down from generation to generation. And that's one of those, again, right here, I'm just in awe. The names we've talked about already in this interview. I right now, I couldn't even begin to fathom having 15 minutes of time with any one of those individuals that you've talked about, because they were such a huge influence to so many wrestlers. And even today, there's still a lot of things that they're contributing to the professional wrestling world that if people get the opportunity, take that advantage of that opportunity, because if you don't, you're definitely missing out on something. Now, my broadcast colleague, Justin Wade, he is a man who, and I'm going to be honest with you, from what I've seen, Jeb, he's one of those wrestling fans and also in-ring competitors, like the days of the Bruiser and the Crusher. One of those that go out there and he could suplex you, he could move you out your boots. The same token too, if you got to throw down, he's going to throw down. So I want to go ahead and turn things over to my broadcast colleague, Justin Wade, right here on the Wrestle Talk podcast. Justin, I'm going to turn things over to you.
Thank you, Blackhawk. It's a pleasure to meet you, sir. Thank you for coming on the show. And my first question is, I've been looking. I was, we're doing my research, and I see that you do. You like to do the seminars for. You like to do. What do you focus on when you do these seminars? What is your main? What do you try to hone in? Because I know you don't get. It's not like a regular training session. What do you try to focus on when you get the boys in the ring, boys and women in the ring?
Well, I tell you, feller, I appreciate you bringing that up, because I've been booking them seminars here lately. Just finished one up there at Martinsville, Indiana, there last Saturday. And the thing that surprised me, there wasn't more people that came in to listen. I don't know if my number was too high. I don't know if But, I ended up with, I think, maybe 10, 15 fellers over there talking to me. And we just crawled in the ring. What I titled it was called Learn from My Mistakes. And as I'm doing these seminars and I'm sharing, I'm starting to write these things down, because, I'd like to, at some point when I'm done with, on my last run and when they finally say, no, man, you're done with it. There ain't no room for you in the office or whatever. I've got something to fall back on to say, all right, here I've written down, what I did wrong over the course of my career. So I named it, Learn from My Mistakes. And basically I said, start the beginning, and to talk about the training. And, I spent a lot of time talking about, the fellas that break in there, and most of them independent circuit wrestling, So, these fellers, they get in there and they were trained by Zeke down there. It's got half a wrestling ring back behind his pole barn. And Zeke wrestled 2 matches down there at the fairgrounds on the undercard. And, all of a sudden he's a pro wrestler. He wasn't trained by nobody. He didn't have no pedigree. He ain't never met nobody or learned from nobody, listened to nobody, or attend no dead-gum seminars. But this kid paying this feller money, teach him how to fall down on his neck. And most of them teaching them wrong. So I look out there and I thought, well, look, fellas, the first thing you got to do is invest in yourself. There's a lot of good schools out there. Of course, my heart belongs to OVW, but there's a lot of folks that have done really good stuff, as far as school goes. I know Kane's running his joint out there, and Cody Hawk? He had a good one going there in Cincinnati. I think he's on the road now with the small wrestlers. But you know, a lot of the guys are leaving New York are starting to open places. And the thing is, most of them fellers come from New York. You know, the ones that are at the retirement age and they're into their career, they actually learned from people that learned the old classic way too. So, are they spent time, you know, on the undercard against those fellers that we were talking about earlier, the guys that you've mentioned. So when they get out there, you know, I said, you got to find your reputable school, somebody that's does a show or even has TV exposure or can access you to TV exposure, which is not a big a thing now because you can pretty much superimpose yourself on the internet there and make yourself look like a rock star. Next thing you know, you got your AEW contract. But however you look at it, you know, that's why I try to point them fellers that way. Make sure you get a good training. And that way you know what you're doing. And then, you know, mostly you'll sit there, shut up and listen. And I've heard you say, I was listening earlier while I was taking some notes on some promo stuff I'm going to do later on my old tag team partner, Snake Williams Jr. You know, I tell them fellers, you know, get in there and shut your mouth and listen up, because you're going to cross paths with fellers who've been there, done that, and had their heart broke many times. And if you can learn from their mistakes like you're listening to mine, then you'll do better. And then we talk a little bit about merchandise and things like that, and you know, kind of taking care of your branding as you go, and most importantly, to stick with what you love. You know, you fall back on you know, sometimes they ask you to do characters that you don't agree with. New York's the worst about that. I just talked about Nick Dinsmore and them saddling him with that Eugene thing. You know, sometimes they give you things that you don't love doing. And, you know, as long as you're able to be you every single day of your life, and the person that they see in the wrestling ring is the same person they're going to walk up to say hey to you on an airplane or in the Walmart or whatever, you know, that's the person you're going to have to be 100% of the time. Because to me, you know, kayfabe ain't dead. Kayfabe's is something you do, and it's going to be, you know, I'll be a kayfabe till the day I die. But, you know, they walk up to me at the Walmart when I'm doing grocery shopping or whatever, and they say, hey, ain't you used to be Jebidiah Blackhawk? And I say, no, but I know where he is.
You know something, Jeb? When you sit there and you talk about it, we were just talking about that earlier on. I mean, again, that's one of those things that when you become a pro wrestler, you basically have to invest in that persona 24/7. That's, I mean, it's one of those where, I mean, when you're walking through, doesn't matter whether you're walking through Walmart, doesn't matter if you're at the car dealership, you're getting a Happy Meal at McDonald's, or you're walking down to the ring in the Davis Arena, or you're walking down that aisle at WrestleMania. That's always a part of who you are. And again, it's one of those things. I feel very fortunate that we've had that opportunity to get some of that information. Now, you mentioned Snake Williams. You mentioned the idea of your tag team partner in Southern Discomfort. And I got to ask you right now, how did that tag team come into existence? Because I've seen some of your footage on the YouTube, and you guys just really seem to have just a very natural chemistry inside the squared circle. And I want to ask you a little bit about your tag team and how did it all come into existence?
Well, buddy, I tell you what, me and Snake Williams Jr., we was pretty good friends before we fell out there. We wrestled each other. I was about retired. You know, I'd gone back to college. I got myself a degree, and I ain't gonna tell you what it's in because you ain't gonna believe me. But you know, I had a youngin. You know, I waited, you know, till I was a lot older to have a youngin, and you know, I finally had a boy, and I was about done with it. And as he, you know, first time this fella looked at the TV and he was like, you know, watching the wrestling on TV, I thought it just set a fire under me. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not that old. I'm in pretty good shape. I could be in better shape, but what if this kid decides, what if my boy decides he wants to do it? What if he gets a hankering for going out there and lighting up, whether it be 80 people or 80,000. What if that becomes his dream? And I cut my career a little bit short by walking away from it. Injuries, this and that and the other, personal matters, different things come up along the way. But it's a fraternity. So once you're in, you're always in, unless you just totally crap in your hat. But no, I decided, Snake Williams Jr., he rung me one day, he said, hey feller, you know how to play golf? And well, yeah, I know how to play golf. He said, well, let's get out here and have a couple drinks and we'll play some golf. He get me out there on the golf course. We got about the 9th hole out there and we was stinking it up pretty bad, nothing but a fistful of snowmen. And man, I tell you what, cooler was about empty. And finally he goes, man, I got a question for you. I got this idea. Well, it's Southern discomfort. And it kind of fit me a little bit. I didn't hate it too much. It was about a redneck cowboy and a redneck biker. And he pitched me that, and we kind of got a couple player B outfits together and went out there. And because we'd wrestled against each other for this company and that company along the way, over the past 20 years, because he'd been doing it almost as long as I have. And when he pitched it, we got out there. We did this. I guess it run about 3-4 years ago, and we run this drive-in up there in Martinsville. And all of 6 people paid for this drive-in, and it was a big debut of Southern discomfort. Man, we went out there, and these kids, they just, you get out there on the independent circuit, you never know what you're gonna find. You might run into Jebidiah Blackhawk, or you might run into that fella that trained under Zeke down there at the behind the pole barn in half a wrestling ring, right? Well, buddy, I tell you, I just started falling in love with the gimmick, and we were having a good time, and we were friends, and we took it to Louisville, and tried to run it out of Louisville, and OVW is a feeder for a lot of different companies right now. They've got Impact's attention, they've got AEW's attention, because of Alice Connections, they've got a WWF. So if you want an opportunity to be seen, OVW on this side of the country is one of the places you need to go. Does that make sense to you?
Oh, most definitely, Jeb. Most definitely.
I mean, I wouldn't say they're officially a developmental for any of those companies, but those companies do watch what OVW does weekly on their television, right? So we took it to Louisville, and we tried to get it across. It just didn't bite. It was missing something. And he's at the end of his, and I'm at the end of mine, and we spent 3 years doing it. And finally I told him, I said, buddy, I love playing redneck cowboy biker with you, but I'm going to go back to doing what I love doing. If it's the end of it, I'm going to go back being Jebidiah Blackhawk. And he goes, well, you're Jebidiah Blackhawk. I said, no, buddy, you know what I mean. I'm going to go back and do what I started as, because, you get picked on a lot of different things through your career. But the Jebidiah Blackhawk that's sitting in front of you talking to you today is the closest thing to the real me there is that I've ever done in professional wrestling. So, you ain't talking to a character right now. You're talking to me. Make sense to you?
Most definitely. Most definitely.
Yeah.
Now,
yeah, man, we got a couple good ones coming up though, because that feller, he tried to pile drive me on the chair up there in Muncie, Indiana last month. Had this great fella. You ever hear of a boy named Jared Kripke?
Heard the name. I haven't seen him in ring, but I've heard the name.
Well, I'll tell you, man, he's about a slack jaw, man, because that dude tried to talk old Snake Williams into pile driving Jebidiah Blackhawk on a chair. And by golly, these fellas come out and save me, because that Snake Williams tried to end his best friend's deadgum wrestling career by pile driving me on a chair in the middle of a wrestling ring. And you know what that feller's gone off and done this time? Be up there in Muncie, Indiana here on the couple of weeks, and that feller told me, he said, I got to go out there and wrestle with 2 fellers that are handicapped. Wait a minute. He said I got to go out there and wrestle in a handicap match. That's what he told me. He said, go out there and wrestle these 2 handicap match in a steel cage. That's what he told me. And So he's a running from me now, Snake Williams Jr. He's a running from me, but I'm going to get my hands on him as soon as I finish these two fellers with the handicaps. You know, I knew a feller had a handicap about 152, bowled out of Lexington.
Oh man. Well, Jeb, I got to ask you another question here. You've talked about a lot about your in-ring career, and I'm going to kind of go completely back to the very beginning here. When you look at your career, and I know you had an opportunity when you were young to be watching on the TV, and you were able to get an opportunity to be in the ring. What was your first experience with the world of professional wrestling? And my second question to it is, would you say your wrestling style matches what you grew up watching?
Man, that's a good question, because I was thinking about that just the other day when I was doing that seminar, and I told them fellers, I said, you kind of emulate the people that you love. You know, you take a little bit, not only from people that are wrestling, you know, by their style, but also people in your life or characters that you've met in your life or seen, and those develop into, you know, what your what they say persona becomes. But when I was a kid, I'm not going to lie to you, feller, my first one, I want to say it was a Saturday night's main event, because I was raised on Hulk Hogan vitamins. And Saturday night's main event, I believe Hulk Hogan was a wrestling, first time I ever sat and actually watched a whole wrestling show. Hulk Hogan was a wrestling Bad News Brown. And I don't remember a lot about it, except when Hulk Hogan started making his comeback, old Brad News Brown went and got him a scythe or a sickle out there and was going to whack Hulk Hogan with it, and Hulk Hogan, you know, got him first. I remember that. But Hulk Hogan, I don't think he gets enough credit, man. I mean, you show me somebody that's ever seen a wrestling program set through, somebody don't see some kind of a Hulk Hogan comeback in their comeback. And I see, you know, you see fellers do it all the time because based on what their comeback looks like. But I like a Hulk Hogan comeback, man. Just that, you know, I've had enough of you. I'm bigger than you. I'm stronger than you. And watch this. And you just nod that finger at them. No, not today, brother. And then you start to wailing on them. I love that Hulk Hogan comeback, man. I also, you know, because I was raised on them vitamins myself, and Hillbilly Jim, matter of fact, because he was one of Hulk Hogan's best friends on Saturday morning cartoon when I got to watch it. Now, it wasn't until my family moved in a little bit and we got the championship wrestling on the Signal out of Memphis, and they ran that on a Sunday morning. I ain't going to tell you my age or nothing, but I'm old enough when Jerry Lawler was still performing, and Jeff Jarrett was probably a baby, you know. I mean, he was a young fella out there doing. I think they painted the belt on him right away. I think his daddy was running the promotion. I mean, I was a kid, I didn't know, but look, you know what I know now versus then. That would have been about the time frame of it. Jesse James was young. I remember going down there to Louisville Gardens. I had a fella who lived in Louisville, and here's one of those connection stories, because went down there to Gardens. I was probably I was maybe young teenager, and I seen these fellers, Fire and Ice. They were the end up Wolfie and Jamie were the tag team under them hoods. Mm-hmm. And then I get to OVW there down the road a little bit, and Jim Cornette's there, and who comes walking through the door is a Wolfie D. And he's painted up, got his scar on his face, and he's bald headed, and he's got this evil, and they made him Slash. And they brought in this feller, Brian Logan, he's also known as Brian Logan, but he got him a school up there. I believe it's Northern Ohio, Middle Ohio. Brian Logan runs a pretty good school there. He come in as the character Damien, and then, they saddled me with this, had me playing preacher. I was 21 years old out there trying to play a 50-year-old preacher, and called me the Judas, and brought in, had Jim Cornette's wife, Stacy, there. She was part of that group. And don't you know, they brought in this feller named Leviathan, right? And we cut all these promos together and had a good time. I didn't really love the gimmick because it was kind of an antichrist kind of evil group, and that really wasn't for me. But Leviathan, you know that fella ends up being Dave Bautista.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Right? So you look up there. So like I said, you never know who you're going to be in the car with, because there I was sitting there on Ohio River in the freezing cold by a campfire with the Wolfie D, Brian Logan, Jim Cornette, Stacy Cornette, and sitting out there in the middle of the rivers, Dave Bautista about elbow deep in the water, the Ohio River, waiting on his cue to get up out of the river. Now you tell me many people that seen Dave Bautista climb out the Ohio River, and buddy, I'm one of them. There's only a handful of other ones, except people that saw it on TV, because it's a pretty good production spot on the half of Jim Cornette. I'll tell you what.
Oh, man. Well, you know something, and again, I kind of make that connection. True statement, Jeb. I was having an opportunity before I came on the program. I actually got to watch Batista's first MMA fight. Wasn't a UFC thing, but having an opportunity to see that. And wouldn't you know it, bear with me here just a minute as you're going and taking care of things. You're talking about Jeff Jarrett. You're talking about a lot of things going on here. And I'll wait until we got this taken care of.
I'm hearing you.
Oh, no problem. Like I said, I want to show you this. Had an opportunity. You were talking about the Jarrett family. Had an opportunity, being the historian that I am. I think you can see this. Got this book recently talking about the life of Christine Jarrett. They call her Teenie back down there in the area. And that's one of those where I had an opportunity to talk myself with Jeff. And I mean, he's a lot older than when you were first there. When you first saw Jeff, was he an in-ring competitor or was he still a referee?
He was in ring there. That would have been on TV. I was watching him on TV. Yeah, man, he was in the ring there on Sunday. He was in there on the Memphis TV. So it was after he was a ref. You try to date me over there, ain't you? You trying to figure out how old the Blackhawk is. No, he was a wrestler. I ain't that old to see him as a referee, man, but I was pretty close.
Well, like I said, I mean, again, having the opportunity, we got Jebidiah Blackhawk here on the Wrestle Talk podcast. Now, Jeb, I don't want to say that your career's done, because as you said earlier on, professional wrestling, once it gets in your blood, it doesn't leave. And I'll date myself here, and you may not think it's true, but I've been around wrestling for 35 years. I remember being the 10-year-old kid running ring jackets, helping write promos, or writing stuff in like newsletters and things along those lines, running sound. I got to ask you, when the day is done and you decide that your career is going to take a hiatus, because like you said, it's never truly over, what do you hope that people will say about the legend of Jebidiah Blackhawk?
What do I hope people will say? I think I lost you, fella.
What would be the legend, if you will, of Jebidiah Blackhawk?
Yeah. All kayfabe aside, for me, it'd be about what the boys say. You know, when they talk about you, because they'll say go down, and I'm like, however you see it, fellas, just go out. Tell her I do, and I say, well, I'm going to react to you, and being given in the ring, never. I don't think I've ever in my career squashed a feller, no matter how little he was. Reason I do that, I'll go back to something that Danny Davis taught. If you squash a feller, what was the point of the match? And I mean, there's given moments you go out there and, you get your 3 minutes on a show where you got, 200 to 400 people out there, whether it be in a cornfield or armory or brewery or whatever it happens to be, that they can invest in. Well, what was the point of the exercise? You go out there, I see fellas go out there and it's all about them backflips and all this, and a million high spots. And by the time that's over with, you know what they remember? Who won? Their nails over and something that they believe in. You gotta work your ass off. It ain't got to do throw the kitchen sink in there to get it done. By the time it's over, what they remember? Every daggum detail of your match, from the expression on your face when that feller did whatever he did, or Steve grabbed that hold, which not enough fellers realize grabbing a hold on people. When they sit you in that hold and it's quiet and they're gasping for air, and then all of a sudden something, and the next thing you know, you got that 200 fellers are killing you. And then when you make you come back and it's a Hulk Hogan comeback, and they believe in you. And what they want to make that, that fella could work with anybody. Could get in there with somebody that could cook. Now they'd have to for me, but I can get in there with anybody and we'll go 15, 20 minutes and it'd be the most entertaining match on the card. I'll guarantee you, any night of the week. So that's why I really enjoy, I enjoy wrestling at OVW. I get a chance to wrestle with some fellas, they're the next superstars. You're going to be watching these fellers on the big company. And we talked about women earlier. Y'all still hearing me?
Mm-hmm. Still hearing you, boss.
Y'all still with me there?
Yep.
All right. So, like over at the OVW right now, I mean, the women's division alone is loaded with the biggest talent you're ever going to see. I don't want to mention no names because I don't want to leave nobody out. But, I mean, they got a Layla Gray over there right now, who's an AEW next biggin. They got a Tiffany Neves over there, who's she's a big one. You got the Hollywood Haley J's been a staple at OVW. She's the second generation. She's the daughter of Maria out there, and Maria just ran Louisville in this side. And then everyone's, what are you going to look up? You're going to see a Shauna Reed come through the door, who's been, up and down the highway in her past 10, 12 years. She ain't even been around that long, I'll guarantee it. I remember her. She was a knobby knee little thing to walk in the locker room trying to wrestle. And now she's a grown woman out there winning titles for big companies, there's a lot of youngins out there that are coming in. That girl out of Florida there, Dreamer Girl Ellie, man, she's a hot one coming right now too. She's been to AEW Dark here recently. She's real good as a female. You got Freya State. She comes down out of Alaska. Now she's got the potential to be the next China. She's been hitting the weights hard. She's been getting toned up. I think she goes in about my height, just under. She's probably about 6'4", and she's a looker, and she's big and strong too, man. And it's just a matter of time for her. She gonna explode. And don't let me get started on the fellers they got down there at OVW right now. I don't even want to start mentioning the fellers because I know they'll all get upset with me, but they've got guys who've been doing it for 27 years that are instructing classes, guys like a Cash Flow and a Tony Gunn have been out there and they teach classes. I already told you they got Doug Basham down there teaching classes. Look around the men's division. They had this fella named Blanco Loco. He runs with that Dream Girl Ellie. You got Luscious Lawrence down there. He's probably the biggest body in the locker room. And then you go to get me started on, Jesse Goddard. They got him pretty much face of the company. Malik Balishira, he's I believe he's an Impact signee. And then look up, EC3's been on the doorstep here for the past 2 months at OVW. So, I mean, you want to look at where's talent going, and I'm getting the opportunity to work with these people on a weekly basis. Now, whether it's to be a veteran doing enhancement or whatever the role is, it's a privilege and an honor, because I know I've been there before, sitting in the locker room with the next John Cena or the next, Randy Orton was always going to be Randy Orton, but sitting over with the next Dave Batista, and I'm sitting here watching these kids come through like they don't understand that they're the future of the industry, and they're going to get there through Ohio Valley Wrestling right now. And every one of them being looked at. And then don't get me started on the fellers like, that are either undercard or enhancement. They're loaded for bear. I put their product up against anybody's product. It's the production, not the talent. They're the most talented roster in professional wrestling right now, hands down in my book. And I'm at the bottom of the food chain, and I've been doing this for 27 years, and I love what I do. But these kids can cook, man, and they get out there and they do it fearless. They ain't afraid of nothing. And it's a privilege to be in there with them. But all these kids that are there that are going to be the next superstar, I want them to know, all right, there's a feller that did it for 27 years, been up and down there. And when I talk to them, man, they listen to me, because I'm not blowing smoke up there. If I see something that's wrong, I'm like, look, you might want to try this, because you don't have to do that. Why? Because you're already over. They already know you by looking at you. You don't have to stomp your foot to make you come back, because they're going to get behind you if you give them a chance to get behind you. And don't they go out there on TV, not stomp their foot to get the crowd started, and then the crowd gets behind them. You can't hear yourself think on a TV taping. So they do listen, and I want them to know, that was a feller that was real. And yeah, he may have blew his opportunity the first time. You talked about retirement. Oh, Jebidiah Blackhawk ain't even close to retirement, fella. You give me a window, I'm going to jump into it. I get in there with anybody and mix it up. We may not go all night, brother, but it's going to be a heavyweight fight. Somebody's getting knocked the hell out.
Oh, I totally understand you there, Jeb. I mean, again, I'm not a young one by any stretch of the imagination. And Justin and I talked about this before we came on the air this evening. There's still maybe a few more matches with putting those boots back on. And again, when you get out there and you can show that you can still go. I mean, again, it's like the country song. I'm not as good as I once was, but I'm gonna be as good once as I ever was.
That's right.
Yeah. So like I said, for those of you that have been listening, we right now have Jebidiah Blackhawk here on the Wrestle Talk podcast. Now, Jeb, before we let you go, I know that you had an opportunity this past weekend to compete at JICW in Indiana. I think it was Spider Murphy, I believe, is who you competed against this weekend.
Yep, that's out there on the YouTube floating around already. I can't believe that.
That's the advantage of technology. Is it seems like they're always popping up.
You ever met Spider Murphy?
Actually, he's one of the few on the JICW roster I haven't had a chance
to meet. Hang on. Hold on, fella. I'm trying to get out the bedroom. Hold on. Come on, man. All right. You coming too? Man, it was the dogs, man. It was the dogs. It wasn't my wife. Them dogs trying to get in the garage here.
But like I said, I mean,
no, fellas. Where's your last question?
Like I said, I haven't had an opportunity, but I know this past weekend you wrestled Spider Murphy. Can you give us any input about your match? I know it's online if you want to get a chance to check it out, but can you give us any input about how your match went this past weekend?
Fella, we down there at the Journey Wrestling in the Martinsville. That fella Steven down there, he runs that show. He's a young promoter. He's still trying to figure some things out. Couple really good fellas down there. A lot of them sit through that seminar I did. And then I went out there to wrestling old Spider Murphy. Now, he's a journeyman. I think he's been wrestling for 20 some odd years himself. He ain't big as nothing. He probably goes about 200 pounds. And he a little bit short feller. You know, he kind of built about like he built about like Snake Williams Jr. And that's kind of why I wanted him, because I know I got one coming up where I got to wrestle the Snake Man up at the IPW in Martinsville. Or in Muncie, sorry about that. IPW running out of Muncie. Well, you know, so I said, all right, I'll take Spider Murphy because he'll be a challenge and we'll go out there and do. And don't you know that fella broke up with his girlfriend that day, and he wasn't in the best of moods. And I went out there and I was glad handing the swell, sold a couple T-shirts to, you know, his feller bought all five. Feller had 5 daughters, bought all 5 of his daughters a Jebidiah Blackhawk T-shirt. And they sitting there on the front row, and I was out there glad handing them and giving them high fives and do-si-doing. And then I went over and seen them fellers in the wheelchairs and got in there on the top rope, put my arms up in the air, and old Spider Murphy come up there and he waffled me from the back. And he caught me, you know, around about I'd say it's probably about 15 years ago. Old Jack Black talked me into making a leg drop off a first-story balcony of some bar named the Sagebrush into a wrestling ring, and I compressed my back real bad. And, man, he just caught me right in that spot. And, man, I just couldn't feel my feet for the first 5-6 minutes there. And next thing I knew, he had lumps on my head. You need corn holders and hot butter. And, man, I seen him out the corner of my eye coming at me there in the turnbuckle, and I ducked down, and he jumped over me. And when he did, he tripped over me, and I rolled him up there and got my 3 and got out of Dodge because he wasn't in the best mood. But no, man, I bit off a little more than I could chew. I beat him, but man, I just had to slip one in on him because that dude, he was kind of upset about his girlfriend breaking up with him, and I figured, well, if I can handle Spider Murphy on the day that his girlfriend broke up with him, and I'll whoop the hell out of Snake Williams Jr. because I know he ain't half a man Spider Murphy is.
And like I said, sometimes and again, you said sometimes it's better to be lucky than be good sometimes, Jeb. And like I said,
it wasn't luck. It wasn't luck, man. I painted him right in that corner. He's a waffling me real good. I had him charging me like a bull. I knew what he's going to do. I didn't do it. Wasn't no accident. I got him. It's called a bear trap. You ever stepped in a bear trap?
I'm not going to say that I have.
All right. You don't want to step on a bear trap. It's not good. And that's what he stepped into. I call it that, you know, I catch them there when they think they're winning, and then all of a sudden they lost, and then I'm get out of Dodge. You know, you ain't got to pick them up above your head every time. If you can get away with one, that counts as a win. I've been doing that for 27 years. I've been getting away with them wins, man. I'll sneak in on there and catch them when they ain't looking. A crowd don't even know I won until I'm outside the ring and referees got to find me, because sometimes, you know, them fellers you get over on there, they get mad at you when you do it to them. And then they want to, you know, they want to go grab stuff and they want to try to hit you with stuff. And you know, you already beat them. But, you know how it is. You said you was wrestling for 30 some years around it. You know how it is. Fellers get mad after you beat them.
Oh, yeah, and that's one of those where you talk about it, too. Even being a referee, I've had the opportunity a few times to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. I remember one night, there's a gentleman, very large gentleman, about 6'5", 6'6", about 300 pounds, and his tag team partner lost the match I officiated. I don't remember much after the guy basically ran me over. I mean, again, 300-pound man versus me versus a turnbuckle. Bad things gonna happen. And like I said,
sounds like you picked the wrong. Sound like you picked the wrong tag team.
Exactly. And like I said, I paid for it for quite a while. But like I said, before I let you go, Jeb, I do want to go ahead. I know you were talking about IPW in Muncie. You talked about your appearance in JICW. For those that are viewing the program right now and want to see Jebidiah Blackhawk in action, where can they check you out in the next few weeks?
Well, you know, you always gonna keep your eyes open on the OVW wrestling. They run there off of Fight TV. They got some local stuff too, but you can catch OVW live every Thursday night. You catch old Jebidiah on occasion. OVW's got one coming up on the 25th. It's a special event. All systems go. Then if you don't catch me live, you catch me live venue here. Coming up this weekend on a Saturday, I'm going to be up there in Catlettsburg. It's out there by Ashland, Kentucky, and that Bluegrass Wrestling Convention. I'll be out there. I'll have some foes and have my wife out there if you want to get a picture with her. And then, maybe get your T-shirt out there in Catlettsburg. You can get that. I think you still get tickets for that if you want to get them ahead of time at the Bluegrass Wrestling Convention.com. And then you can catch me out there at the OVW. They got their summer tour starting up there. And go to ovwrestling.com and that'll have all their events. And that way you can catch them live. There'll be a tour in all the way up to around Ohio, I imagine, all summer long. And then if you want to catch me in the Spur on the 13th of this month, I'll be in the Muncie, Indiana, and I'm going to be having me a cage match. The whole night up there for the IP Wrestling is all cage matches. And as I understand it, because of my partner, Snake Williams Jr., ducking me, I'm going to have me 2 handicap fellers in a cage.
All right. Well, like I said, for more information, you can check out, I believe, and don't quote me on this, Facebook. Do you have the Twitter, Jeb? I know you got the Facebook.
Do I have it? I have an Instagram.
Wow. I got to say,
I don't have Twitter. I have I don't have a Twitter. My wife has a Twitter. I don't have a Twitter.
Tweet.
I'm a boy.
Oh. All right. I'm just going to walk on. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, I got to tell you, first of all, Jebidiah, it has been an honor and a privilege to have you here on the program this evening.
Oh, wait a minute, fella. You was talking about the internet. Oh, man, no, I don't have one of those. I got an Instagram. And a Facebook, and that's all. I don't have OnlyFriends yet neither.
Oh, damn.
Well, like I said, Jeb, I mean, again, I'm gonna tell you right now, when you're talking about the Bluegrass Wrestling Festival, a true story. I had an opportunity about 6 years ago, about 5-6 years ago. Actually had an opportunity to drive to Ashland, Kentucky, and I went to a place called Suplex Tacos. I don't know if they're still in business. I hope they are, because they were actually here on the program. And again, if you get an opportunity and they're still there, make it a point to check them out, and also make it a point to check out the Bluegrass Wrestling Festival, where you can check out Jebidiah Blackhawk. And Jeb, I got to tell you right now, as you're getting ready to be done, it sounds like it looks like somebody there wants to have some attention from you.
That's my best girl, Lily Mae, right there.
This is a girl.
Yeah, like I said,
You want to say hi, Lily Mae? Look here. Hold on, fellas. You can see her. Hold on. There she is. There's my girl.
Oh.
That's my good girl. Oh, you the best girl.
Loves her daddy.
That's my best girl, Lily Mae. That's my dog.
Yeah, like I said, Jebidiah, I got to say, on behalf of Justin and I, that just made this interview right here. Not only talking about your career in OVW and all the promotions you've been in, but get an opportunity to see your dog right here on the Wrestle Talk podcast. That makes it complete for me. It really does. Justin, do you have anything else you want to add before we let Jebidiah get back to taking care of business as he always does?
No, this is a very entertaining interview. I love every week when we get to have someone new to the show, that no one's really to experience with me and on the West Coast here. If we have any, the West Coast listeners, I really appreciate, him coming on the show and telling us about himself and what he's got going. I appreciate, I love the business, and this is just adding to it. So,
all right. Well, like I said, ladies and gentlemen, we had the opportunity, and now I got to say this because you're here, Jebidiah, before we let you go. You are now officially a part of the Wrestle Talk podcast family. Again, I want to thank you for coming on the program, and I definitely want to have you back on the program in the future to talk more about professional wrestling right here on the Wrestle Talk podcast.
Fellas, thank y'all for having me. I appreciate y'all giving me a minute. And I do like that Jordan Grace too.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, like I said, Jebidiah Blackhawk here on the Wrestle Talk podcast. Justin, I got to tell you right now, great interview. And like I said, I'm 100% truthful. This is a dog house. I got 3 dogs at home. I know you got dogs at home. Getting to see Ellie Mae on the program. Little surprise for us here tonight, but definitely a memorable experience. Any final thoughts before we wrap up here this evening?
Man, just another, good show. I don't know what's causing these technical difficulties. Like, I'm checking my laptop. I got all 5 bars. I know, I don't know what's going on. I wonder if it's because, where I'm at. Maybe it's causing, I'm on the West Coast. Wonder if that's causing a problem. But we've had shows before where we haven't had these issues. It seems like.
Right.
So, right now you're frozen.
Well,
you were frozen for 5 seconds right there, and you're frozen again. And it just, you're good now, but it's just frustrating because, like last week during the game show challenge, you guys cut off, and I missed a whole question. So until then, until
like I said, I think it's one of those on.
Like, you're gone again. I'm here, you're gone. So.
Say we got a lot of technical issues, but before we go in here, let's go ahead and thank our sponsors one more time. Royal Mills Transportation, with our good friend, the CEO, DeJuan Mills. Rathbun Engraving, again, if you want to pick up one of those Wrestle Talk podcast mugs, make it a point to check us out, Wrestle Talk Podcast on social media. Nobleman's Barber Lounge, Kansas City. Kincaid Arcade at the Oak Park Mall. Interstate 70 Sports Media. Little Popeye Designs are the ones behind those great Wrestle Talk podcast tumblers, which are also available for purchase. And the FWWC, the world's premier fantasy wrestling group. Justin, I'm going to tell you right now, tonight's been a great show. Next week, another great episode of the Wrestle Talk podcast right here. Again, hashtag WTP, hashtag Let's Talk Wrestling.
Hey, before we go, can we get on there for Eric Allen, his daughter?
Thank you for reminding me. I know we had mentioned it earlier on here, and Chris, you could bring that up one more time. We said we were going to make it a point to continue things regarding the Allen family. Like I said, make it a point if you got a few dollars to spare.
I have to go through this and
right now, as it stands here, they have raised some money. I do know that I had an opportunity to kind of follow them on social media, and I believe she had to have another procedure done late last week, early this week. This is a very sad story, and she's got a long way to go. But a lot of people have said she's a fighter.
Rob, I'm a big guy. I'm a 300-plus pound man. That back in the day, I was very. I don't like to brag much, but I was very, very strong back in the day. I still have my strength, but nothing. She is more brave than any of us on this show for what she's been through. And by the grace of God, she's still with us. And I hope she, everyone involved around her is showing the love she needs right now, because that love will get her through.
Yeah, very, very much, very true, Justin. Very true indeed. Again, you get an opportunity, GoFundMe.com. Allison's fight is what you need to look up. Again, any little bit helps. $1, $5, $20, $100, whatever you can do to help out this family would be very appreciated. I mean, again, I know we've been a proud supporter of them for the past couple of weeks since everything went on. And again, if you have the opportunity, like I said, it's going to be a long road, but I know that just like her mother and father, she is a very strong fighter. And like I said, she's going to recover from this. It's going to be a long road, but like I said, every little bit of love and support will help this family, help this young girl as she continues to recover from such a devastating injury, 2nd and 3rd degree burns, pretty much at least half of her body. Again, make it a point, check them out as well. Also, as a reminder, for those of you that ever feel like you're really down, you can't shake the blahs, our good friend Jimmy Sharp, National Suicide Prevention Hotline 988. They're available 24/7, 365. Make it a point, talk to your friends, talk to your family, talk to somebody, because there's going to be somebody out here in the world that's going to be there for you 24/7. And again, it's one of those where, I mean, again, I feel very fortunate to have the Wrestle Talk podcast family, both on camera and those that tune in each and every week that are here for support. Again, without you, I mean, a lot of times have been tough, but again, having those people there is a huge blessing to me to make sure that things keep going and we can keep plugging away each and every day. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to wrap us up for this week. Again, WrestleTalkPodcast.com for all your information. You can follow us on all the great social media outlets. And as a reminder, this Thursday night, the Wrestle Talk Podcast is going to remind you to tune into the FWWC tonight, 7:30 p.m. Central. And we'll be back here next Tuesday evening at 7 p.m. with another episode of the Wrestle Talk Podcast. For Luke Roberts and Justin Wade, we'll see you right here next week.